you have still not faced the impossibility of agnosticism when it comes to meaning and purpose in life, the value of a human life, ethics, and life after death. And you intentionally evade it. And I don't blame you, Alex. I'd do the same thing if I was sitting in your chair. But you still are going to have to put your head on your pillow tonight, and you're going to have to acknowledge I'm a pretty highly motivated guy. I wouldn't have gotten the education at Oxford that I have. I wouldn't work as hard as I do at being rational and logical. You are living for something. You have confidence in someone, Alex. Now, come on, just be honest with me and tell me where your confidence, your faith is.
That was a clip that went viral about a month ago. A debate between Cliffe and our main man, Alex O'Connor. So today we're just gonna look at some of it and then react to it, because why not? What the fuck is even this channel at this point? Now, Cliffe makes a point here. I'm just gonna call him Cliffe. I'm too lazy to check if that's actually how you say it, which is that you have to believe in something. This is actually the exact same point that Jordan Peterson has made when debating a nihilist, which is that, look, you have to make decisions in life, right? Because non-decision is also a decision. You have to decide if you want to get out of bed today or not. And the way that you decide between those options is value. Whichever one has more value to you, you will choose, right? So he's saying that there has to be value, there has to be meaning that came from somewhere, and you can't just throw your hands in the air and say, I don't know what value is, I don't know where value comes from, when you are literally making value decisions every single day of your life. That is the point. But here's the thing. The entire thing falls apart once you realize one thing. This entire point hinges on the fact that value can only come from religion. Because that really is the answer to this, is that, well, my faith and confidence in my values come from who I am as a person, my experience about life. And it doesn't have to come from if there's a God or not. Like, we don't even have to go for like life choices or whatever. Just think about this. Let's say I had some burgers today instead of chicken. Now, what value proposition those two options have on me? And where does that value come from? It's from taste. It's from my experience in eating them, right? So I don't have to ask God if eating the chicken here is more worth it than eating, like, you know what I mean? Like, I can just make that decision from within. And somebody like Jordan Peterson is going to say that even that value distinction that I think is from within comes from a more divine place, which, is an argument that you can make, but you can't say that Alex right there is being dishonest by not admitting that the choices that he makes in life come from a religious point of view. And I think that this is what happens with a lot of like Christian people, and not even just Christian people, but a lot of people who are very charismatic, a lot of people who can say things in a way that makes it sound grand and truthful and deep, oftentimes get lost in their own rhetoric. Because it's really not a difficult thing, and I do think that he understands this as well, because he says at the very beginning, impossibility of agnosticism when it comes to...
You have still not faced the impossibility of agnosticism when it comes to...
See, those things are not the same thing as agnosticism when it comes to believing in God. I think he acknowledges this. But then because he kind of put it in a way that sounds profound or something like that, he's kind of fooling himself a little bit there, I think. Which I don't think that's a dumb thing to do at all. Pretty sure it happened to me too. But that really is the answer to his statement, which is that you can put faith in yourself. And I want to say something a little bit controversial here. It's actually Cliffe that's being dishonest, because everybody puts faith on themselves. Now, think about this, right? If God were to come down and then tell Cliffe to live his life in a very specific way, and then because of that, he follows that specific path, then yeah, then he's following the words of God. Then he's putting faith on God and God alone. That's fine. But God hasn't come down to him. God hasn't, well, he might say he has, but there's no proof of that, which I think any reasonable person would agree that there is no solid proof that God exists. And if there isn't a proof, then it's a guess. And if it's a guess, then who's making that guess? Right? You not only have to guess if God is real, but you also have to guess what God thinks. And you might say like, oh, I can just look at the Bible, but you actually also have to guess that the Bible is true. You have to guess everything. And not only that, but you have to pick a denomination too, because there are some books that are considered to be canon in some denominations, but not in other denominations. So you actually have to guess like which books are in the canon, which books are not, which way is the right way to look at it. Who's making that decision? Who's making that guess? It's you. It's you and only you. So even though you're saying like, oh, my value comes from God, the meaning of life comes from God and whatnot, but you are the one who said that God is that way, who said that God exists to begin with, who's putting faith on yourself to know that God is real, to be able to successfully interpret the Bible and successfully guess that there is a God. Another way to look at it is this, right? Let's say we're playing a game. There are 3 doors in front of you, and the game is you have to guess which door has a Lamborghini behind it. Only one door has a Lamborghini behind it, and the other 2 has a goat. This is not an Auntie Hall problem. And let's just say that if you don't make a decision, if you don't pick between 1, 2, 3, the number 1 door is automatically open for you. Now, he doesn't have any choice but to pick something here, because indecision is also a decision. You're choosing not to choose. So when presented with that opportunity, you have to make a decision here. That is true. But you don't actually have to act like you know what's behind the doors to be able to choose. So Alex is there playing the game, and he's like, okay, well, I don't actually know where the car is, so I'm just gonna pick 2. I feel like depending on the position of the camera and everything, maybe that's like the best spot for the car to be and whatnot, right? So I'm gonna make a logical guess. I'm gonna make a reasonable guess and pick number 2. Now Cliffe comes in and he says, okay, so which door has a car in there? And Alex is like, well, I don't know. And Cliffe is like, I'm sorry, you actually don't have a choice? And Alex is like, what? He doesn't have a choice but to choose. That is correct. But does he have to claim that he knows what's behind the doors in order to pick one? Absolutely not. So then Cliffe goes ahead and says, well, I can say that I know that it's behind door number 3 because I have faith in that door. And then they open the doors and number 2 is correct. Like, what is that? You know? Now, I understand when he's talking about like life choices, then he has to have a reason for it, and he can't just say that like, well, I don't know why I did that. I understand that, right? But life after death, that's not a decision. That's not a value judgment. That's just a claim. Now, whether that claim is true or not is going to affect my value system, right? But that by itself is not a value. It's either true or it's false. And it's a factual statement that we actually don't know if it's true or not.
I cannot have it said that agnosticism is not a response, or that I'm somehow evading the questions. Tell me that I'm wrong, fine. Tell me that I'm stupid, fine. Tell me that I'm not understanding your question. Maybe I'm answering the wrong question because I've misheard you. But to say that I'm intentionally evading your question because of some kind of fault in my worldview is an attack on my character that I just can't let stand, because I strive and pride myself on my ability to honestly engage with the questions that people are answering and honestly tell them that I don't know when I don't know.
All right, so Stuart and I got to take a course in communication because we have miscommunicated. I'm sorry for that. I am not making a statement about your character. I am making a statement instead that it is impossible to be agnostic about the question of human value, human meaning, morality, and life after death.
They literally just said that he's intentionally evading the question, which if he is, then that would make him a dishonest person. So it is about his character. And this is also what I see a lot of Christian people or like religious people do as well, which is that because what they did wrong has so much more consequence than somebody who's not Christian, they oftentimes will just not admit to it. You know, there's this Christian lady that I was talking to about, you know, Christianity, and I didn't want to be rude or anything, so I was like, I'm sorry if I'm being rude or overstepping or something like that. Then she said, it is impossible for you to offend me. She literally got offended like 5 seconds after that. Like, you know, one of those people who are like, I have zero anger in my heart because I'm a God's person, right? I fear God, right? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you can believe in God, but that doesn't make you perfect, right? So it is possible to annoy you. It is possible to offend you. But it feels good to deny that, doesn't it? Because that's what it should be in God's eyes. And then another interesting point is that he actually answers my question, which is that why do you have to make a decision about whether there is a life after death or not? Why can't you just say, I don't know?
That it is impossible to be agnostic about the question of human value, human meaning, morality, and life after death because you have to live life.
Because you have to live life. Again, I don't want to be rude or anything, but that's just, that's ridiculous. Because having your mind set on something as vague and unclear as life after death is absolutely not impossible. It's like, I can't understand if he's saying like you have to have an external source of value structure because that's going to make your life more stable and it's going to make it easier for you to make decisions and all that. Then I understand, right? But then to say like it's mandatory, right? Like there's no choice but to actually do this. It's like, I mean, literally, Alex here has passed 1 million subscribers and made an entire career for himself precisely talking about the fact that he doesn't know. So why is it mandatory again that he makes up his mind? And Alex actually brings up a good point there, which is that he literally admits to not knowing some stuff about the Bible.
I will quote you as best I can. You said that claiming to have the answer to the biggest questions of the universe is the height of intellectual arrogance. You then told me that me saying I don't know the answer to the most fundamental, foundational question of human existence is an impossible option. And that when you didn't know an answer to a question, that was called basic humility. Well, I agree with you. I agree with you. You don't know. I don't know. There are many things that we do not know.
He admits to it. Okay, so then you can say the exact same thing to him. It's like, no. You don't get to say I don't know. You have no choice but to say I know that God meant this or not. You know, I feel like, see, this is again my point, right? I feel like a lot of people get lost in their own charisma because he's a very good speaker. And if you are a charismatic speaker, then you can essentially make anything sound good. You can make any argument sound profound and deep and all of that. So it's kind of easy to fall into that cycle of like having defended yourself way too well that you actually start to believe yourself. Does that make sense? And it's kind of ironic and it's pretty interesting because his behavior here is basically the proof and demonstration of why thinking like that is bad. He's sitting here getting mad at Alex for saying that he doesn't know something because everything has to be black and white. Meanwhile, Alex is just going like, hey, that's just what I think. He's not raising his voice. He's not, and that's because he's not committed to something that he doesn't know. If he doesn't know something, he's willing to admit that he doesn't know it. And that is not impossible. That is humility.